become a leader, we have other people that you are responsible for.
Yeah.
It starts to become more of this team effort. Getting through it, a lot of the
Is
times is your teammate helping you through this, encouraging you, like, hey, we got this, like, move.
you're alive. Well, salute.
Salud.
Right. The only Spanish word I know. Right. Working on my Spanish. Yeah. So, one, thank everyone for checking out Mentor the Beast. Today, I have with me Gabriel Ortiz, the man, the legend. Been in the Army 8 years, Black Hawk crew chief, and he's going to tell us a little bit about himself. So, go
Yes,
ahead.
sir.
How'd you get into? Why did you decide to join the military, and kind of what did you do in the military?
All right. So originally, I was born in Puerto Rico, raised in New York City,
Okay.
and one reason why I joined the service, it was a feeling of just wanting to serve my country.
Okay.
It was definitely patriotic, and also to make something out of myself. At least what I thought at that time.
Was there's some kind of driving force that made you want that made you feel that way? Like you have family in the military or anything like that, or is there something that you saw or
Yeah,
whatnot?
great question. I do. So my grandfather, um, he wasn't. Well, he was in the service
Mhm.
during Korea, and he was going to be deployed to Korea. And the day before he was going to be deployed, um, they the Korean War stopped, so he missed it
Okay.
by a day.
Wow.
He continued his career in the police force. He was a chief of police. Did wonderful things, and this is in Puerto Rico.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a crazy story. He was good friends with Prince Charles.
All right.
Yeah, yeah. Prince Charles would come to the island and play golf, and he would ask for my grandfather specifically to be his detail, and they became friends
What?
over the years. Yeah, I
That's
have an
cool.
uncle, his son, who served in the army as well. So definitely, there's a in the family there is a history of men serving in the military. So almost seemed like I was destined to as well. So
Okay. So you enlisted. Uh, what was that experience like when you went from being a civilian to being in the military? Like, what is the kind of the strongest mind shift or mindset change that happens or that happened for you?
well, I was definitely scared. I was very nervous of the unknown. I didn't
Okay.
know really what to expect. I was leaving everything behind. At this time, I have a son. At this time, I have a 1 year old. So I'm being separated from my son, and
So how old are you at this point?
I was 29.
You're 29. So you enlisted at
Yeah,
29.
yes.
Okay.
I had a whole other life before the service. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, we'll get into that in a second
Oh, for
then. Yeah,
sure.
for sure. We
I
definitely
got
have to
stories, man.
backtrack on that
Yeah,
one. Got to definitely backtrack on that one.
for sure.
So
Sure.
well, let's just go ahead and start there. So let's rewind it then a little bit. Um, what was your life like before? Since I never would have thought that you would have, went in that late, because most people don't, right? Um,
Most people don't.
most people don't.
Yeah,
So,
but yeah.
what was your life like prior to deciding to make that jump?
Wow. So I went to school. So after high school, when I graduated high school,
And you're in Puerto Rico or New
no.
York at
So
this
now I'm
point.
in
So,
Florida. So I was born in Puerto
so
Rico.
give us the timeline. You're born in Puerto Rico, and then
Right. Born in Puerto Rico. At age 7, we moved to New York.
okay,
Then I graduated high school in Florida. When I graduated high school, college was the next step.
yep.
So I went to college,
Where at?
right here, Broward College.
Okay.
Yeah. And
What'd you major in?
aeronautical science.
Okay,
So I wanted to be a pilot.
got
So I went to flight school in Hollywood, Florida. At the time, the school was Comair, which was a subsidiary of Delta,
it.
and that's where I did my flight training. And then I would do my core classes and aviation classes at Broward.
Okay.
Yeah. So, well, while I was in school, I was still living at home at the time. I remember my mother telling me, or basically ordering me, "You're gonna get a job."
And
And
how old are you at this point?
I was 18.
18.
I just
Okay.
started college.
Just
She's
started
like, "You
college.
need a job." Protested. I said, "I don't want to work. I just want to go to school." She's like, "Oh, no, if you're gonna live here, you're gonna work." I'm like, "Okay, fine." At that time, I knew somebody, an older person who had a job at Bank of America. So I went to her to ask her to help me out to get a job. And she said, sure. So she got me an interview with Bank of America. And I'll never forget, they hired me for a personal banker position.
Okay.
Okay. I didn't know anything about banking either. I couldn't tell
All
you. I
right.
couldn't tell you how I got this job. Maybe the personality,
Okay.
my boyish good looks. I don't know.
Yeah.
But they
Probably
gave,
that.
they
Yeah. Like
gave
he's
me.
cute. He'll make us some money. Bring him in.
So I got this job as a personal banker. I went through 6 months of credit training while I'm in school. I get my first job at what was it, in Weston, Bank of America in Weston,
Okay.
and as a personal banker, had my own office, clients. I was just a kid. So basically, that's pretty much where my work experience starts with Bank
Okay.
of America. Right? So when I was done with school, I decided to stay.
And you go 4 years to college? Is that what you
Yes,
do? You do your four
yes,
years?
yeah.
Okay.
But my job was so lucrative, and these experiences that I was gaining and people that I was meeting, I decided to stay in doing this. So from Bank of America, I worked with several other banks,
Okay.
such as ABN AMRO, Amalgamated Bank of the Netherlands, Rotterdam. They don't
Okay.
exist anymore. However, there were huge banks back then.
Yeah.
Like, and so yeah, I went into project management, and so forth, and then the economy took a really bad hit.
This
Um,
is like what year about
this was
this?
2008.
2008. Okay.
Yeah, 2008. The economy,
Yeah.
yeah,
Crashed.
crashed.
Yeah. So,
So,
so you did what at this point? At this point, do you have a girlfriend? You married? What was the situation?
so at this time, my son's mother, uh, she got pregnant with our
In
son.
2008 or
Well,
so
around there.
around there.
Well, no, my son was born in 2010. Excuse me.
Okay.
So, um, she got pregnant 2009.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah. So
Okay.
economy crashes
Yeah. Economy
2008.
crashes.
Then you do what?
Yeah. So right before the economy crashed, I also decided to get a Series 3 license. So I was trading commodities on a New York Mercantile Exchange. So I was
Okay.
working for a firm at this time too. So selling commodities and all this stuff. And all of a sudden, the market crashes. I can't make any money. Uh, I can't get any clients. It's just
Bad.
bad
Just
news,
bad.
man. Bad news. And so I started picking up odd jobs. It was a really hard time for me. I fell into a depression. Uh, just felt like I couldn't make anything work. You know? So I started reflecting. It's like when you're in a moment of despair per se or dire straits.
Yeah.
At least me, I started trying to reflect on things and myself and what can I do to change things. So started thinking about the service, started remembering, okay, I went to school, I always wanted to fly. So
So it just
how
seemed
can
like
I
the right
marry
move.
these
You kind
two?
of married the two
How do
together.
I marry the two? So yeah, at that age, I went to the recruiter's office, I went to the Air Force, Navy. Our Army was like, we'll take you. You want to fly helicopters? Take a test to see if you can, I
Now,
was
was
like,
this because the
sure.
experience that you already had,
Yes.
and they looked at that and they were like, "All right, yeah, come on."
Right, of course. And they'll also tell you anything to get you in there. But um so yeah, I just went for it.
So at 29, you enlist.
I
You got a
enlist.
1-year-old son.
I have a 1 year old.
You jump into the military. So where did you do your basic training?
Fort Jackson. So Fort Jackson is in Georgia.
Okay, so you go through that, and then what happens? Then now, just say we had talked a little bit before this, kind of get an idea of what you had done, kind of the thought process, and one of the things that you expressed was you get broken down mentally and physically, and then rebuilt into what it is that they need you to be able to execute on the tasks that you're going to need to execute on, right? So can you go through, when does that process happen, and what was that like for you? Like how did that affect you,
Yeah.
right? Because you had a whole, a lot of people are going into the military at 17, 18, 19 years old. So they're already being programmed in school. They're just used to taking orders, they're used to being told what to do, but for you, you're almost 30 years old. You've had a whole career already at this point, and now you're going through this process. It's got to be different for you, right? Because
Definitely.
you already had this mindset of how things are and how things
Definitely.
operate. So what was that like for you?
Definitely. And maybe I can speak for all the servicemen who you join later in life. It was different. So when I went to basic training, obviously you see it's like babies. To me, they look like babies. 17, 18, fresh out of high school. Here I am with 10 years on them. But I always at that time I always looked younger than I was.
Uh-huh.
So a lot of them always will always confuse me with my age. They will think I was like 22, 23. But when they find out my age, they're like, "What?" Like
And what
um
kind of physical condition are you in at this point?
in basic training,
Yeah, I mean, before you, like when you went in, what kind of physical condition were you in?
not too bad because I stayed active. I surfed a lot. I biked a lot.
So you already had, so
Sports.
you still looked like it was
Yeah,
very easy to pass for that age then, for
it
you.
was. I stayed active, so it wasn't like I was out of shape. It was the physical part was definitely demanding at times, but I was able to stick it through. But to your question, how was it? Being my age opposed to somebody who was younger. You got to think about this too. A lot of the young people who join the service, and obviously everybody has their own reasons. A lot of these young people can come from the inner cities, can come from places where there is an opportunity for them, and they see this as an opportunity for them to get out of their current situation and maybe make something out of themselves.
Okay.
Okay, so um, and they don't have any life skills. They don't have. They're new to this, so a lot of them leaned on me as
Kind of
either
like a
the big
guide, like a
brother
mentor. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
or
a
the
little bit. Yeah,
dad. I had
yeah.
guys,
Oh,
I had
yeah.
guys under me who called me dad, and I was okay with it. They're like, "Hey, dad," so um, but I enjoyed it because there was a certain level of respect there, and I like the fact that they felt comfortable coming to me
Yeah.
for whatever it was that you know they were going through.
So you ended
Which,
up talking to a lot of people, I'm sure, having
oh
a
yeah,
lot of
absolutely,
conversations.
absolutely, yeah, yeah, and I was there with them. We're all sucking together. It's so yeah.
So how was the breakdown and build up thing? Like how does that work?
Right. So you know exactly. So now you have a 17, 18-year old, well, 18-year old, let's say, right? 18-year-old uh, new soldier, and you have me.
Yep.
Life experiences, less life experiences. I really had to go in there with an open mind, and you really have to humble yourself and not think like, oh, I know everything, because you don't. Uh, that's what helped me. So I was open because I want to learn this training. I want to be the best that I can. I'm not gonna come in here thinking that I know everything because I don't. And respect my drill sergeants and my leadership to guide me and teach me, the proper way.
Okay.
So I think doing that is also setting an example for the younger ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you see that as probably one of the biggest things that the younger people coming through there struggle with, especially maybe coming from inner city situation where they may not have had the training and respect and discipline and whatnot like that, that they struggled with that coming into a situation where that is everything,
Oh
respect
yeah.
and discipline,
Yeah.
and you already had that, so it was, you had to learn that by, if you had a job, you had a career, you definitely know there's a hierarchy system.
Right.
So,
And this is starting from the bottom.
yeah, and
You
you
know.
you very quickly understand where you're at, I'm
Oh
sure.
yeah. I mean, this is from making like 6 figures a year to I'm making a soldier salary. It's very humbling.
Yeah, it's got to be a lot harder, right? That's got to be a lot harder.
Yeah, but but you push forward,
So you go
yeah.
from
So
that,
these,
so
so the, I yes, there were young guys and girls who were definitely individuals, just like everybody else, coming into the service, but they quickly learn that it doesn't help you out.
yeah, that's what we were talking about. Is like a
Right.
lot of the, yeah, as generations go on, the entitlement, um, the individuality complexes that people get of how they want to be seen. It's me, I'm this thing, and everything. Right, that all has to go away to be able to function as a unit effectively. Um, and a lot of times people want that with no justification. They have no skills. Which if you have no skills, you have no value to bring to the table. So it's like, well, I'm worth it. I'm this and I'm that. And it's like, well, what are you really worth? Once you come to the table, the table of life where
Hmm.
everybody is like, okay, we're going to pay you for what you can execute on. And if you just feel like, no, but I'm worth it, it's like, worth what? What value can you bring to the table? What can you do that I can pay you to do that would make you valuable? Because on some level, that's on a very large level, especially starting out, that you got to get that, right? So, um, how is that adjusted when you go into the military? How is that mindset? Because they're having to deal with, I'm sure, a lot of people that have that mindset already.
I think a lot of it has to do with giving somebody guidance and purpose,
Mhm.
right? You give them the purpose, the objective, and you give them the guidance to do it, and then let them do it. And then when they have that success, it really does start to turn them around as
Build a
like
little confidence on them.
build that confidence. Absolutely, that I can get this done. We can get this done. It starts to become more of this team effort.
Yeah.
Because really, at the end of the day, like that's what it is. You're looking out for your left, and you're looking out for your right. Your buddy, and you start to learn this. So definitely, any of these bad habits that you might have coming into the service, they're gonna work these kinks out out
Yeah.
of you.
Yeah.
So said, they're gonna break you down mentally, physically, and build you up.
Okay. So, what would you say the biggest danger to someone thinking that way, thinking that, you know, oh, I'm an individual, I'm a this, I'm a that. Like, what is the biggest problem that you see with that? And and then once they shift over to understanding how to work as a unit, what is um, how is that such an asset? Like, why would you strive to do that?
Well, in the army, there's the core values.
Okay,
Okay. So these are core values that you learn in the beginning.
okay,
And these core values are what you're to live by as well, right?
okay.
One of them being selfless service,
Hmm.
another one being courage, another one being integrity, like doing the right thing when no one is looking.
What define courage for people who maybe don't understand? Like, there's lots of words. Like, for instance, love. It's like, well, I mean, you can say it, but what does that mean to you, type thing. So I think courage is one of those things that if somebody
Courage
doesn't
is
really
just definitely,
understand it,
of course. So courage is definitely like stepping up to the plate Having that bravery when you could feel scared or have that fear, but you're still stepping up to the plate and doing the right thing, um, for whatever it is that you're doing for the mission or for somebody else. You know,
And how does the military instill that in you? Because I believe that that is one of those things that you can say the word, but if you do not explain the word, define the word, and then put somebody through some kind of a training and then some kind of a test to not just test them to see if you're okay with it, but test them to show them that they can do the thing that you
and
taught them
that
to execute on,
absolutely, yeah,
right?
that's a great
Like,
point.
how do you see that?
Right, that's all really built into training. So training is going to push you beyond what you thought you could ever do.
Hmm.
And once you start passing these thresholds, you're like, wait a minute, I just did that. I can do this. It starts to build that confidence. You know, it'll give you that courage, those tools to, get, to push beyond that. It's like, well, I can do this. I can do something else. You know,
Hmm. Yeah. 'Cause I mean, just like confidence without skill set is just really cockiness, right? It's like, oh, yeah, right. Oh, yeah, yeah, I
yeah,
can do that. I can do that. But I mean,
right.
if
But
it
can you
comes down
really?
to it,
Yeah.
I mean, can you really?
But
Right?
can you really?
Can you
Right.
really? Right? But
Right.
so when you're in this situation, they're not only training you to do it, but they're also putting you through a test to prove to you that you can.
Right.
Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So they definitely teach you that your body can do so much more than what your mind tells you it can. So it really becomes I don't want to say a game, but you know, almost like looking inward, and knowing like, hey, like you got through this certain obstacle or training, whatever it was. You came out to the other side better than you were before. You think, oh, well, I don't think I could do that, but you did, So definitely,
Do you
it's
think it's like helping people instead of questioning themselves whether they can do something, questioning like, well, if I can do this, what else could I do? Right? And then maybe changing their mindset and from the mindset of I can't do that to how can I do that, right? Like, so now you've got more of a problem solving mindset because that's what it sounds to me like you're building. You're taking someone and showing them that there is an opportunity when there's a situation or a problem that they're facing to not give up, not throw a fit, not break down, not do all these things, but just see the situation, solve the problem, right? And figure out, well, how can I solve this problem, right? This is a problem. This is a situation. Like you were telling me that after you got out of the military,
hmm
that you're in civilian life and you're in a situation where somebody starts shooting, right? And you're not throwing your hands up, running around, freaking out, becoming a moving target,
right.
right? You're just like,
No,
okay,
definitely not.
assess the situation, what I need to do in a situation. So can you give us like a little bit of insight as to what goes through your head in a situation like that so they maybe can see how the training is now affecting you in a real life situation.
Okay. I need to rewind a little bit back to what you were
Sure.
saying. Um, so when you're going through training, right? It's not just but you also have your buddy, your teammate
Mhm.
with you, and you're helping each other out. You see, so it's not just you getting through it. A lot of the times is your teammate helping you through this, encouraging you, like, hey, we got this, like move, like whatever it is, to get you through these difficult times as well. So then you start developing these bonds as well with other people
Mhm.
and this teamwork, where it's like, hey, um, together we can get the mission done. So um, just wanted to just
Sure.
to just to kind of maybe throw a little bit more into that. And then
Kind of what,
okay,
yeah.
so again, as in my civilian life, like
Yeah.
out of the service now. You speaking about a situation where
Yeah, you
I
told me that there
was
was a situation.
right. So, for those who obviously don't know, recently I was in a certain part of town where a certain individual pulled out a weapon and they started to engage somebody else in public in front of everybody. At the time, I was with my girlfriend, and she is absolutely freaking out. I didn't freak out. It's like you just get used to it. You hear so much. I mean, you're downrange. You're in kinetic situations. You're constantly training. These things are
So can you
they're
explain what
not.
downrange means?
Oh, okay, so downrange is like deployed,
Okay.
right? When you're in a combat zone,
Okay.
right? Kinetic just means exchanging fire between an enemy. You know,
Okay.
situation is escalated to that, or it's hot.
Yeah.
So I remained calm, and I was able to get us out of the situation safely. Being able to see our exits and to get out and get me and my partner out of there. So
Yeah, and that may not have happened had you not had that kind of training
no, no, absolutely not.
because you're just freaking out. Like,
No, no. I think definitely that comes with some sort of training, formal training. It's not a situation that you're normally in.
yeah. Oh, absolutely.
A normal, civilian, a normal citizen of the United States. It's not,
Right.
you know. So, but it's something that translates not just in something like that. It can translate to many, facets of your life.
Sure.
Being able to maintain that composure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As situations escalate, you're able to as so when you're trained that way, is it like when situations start to escalate, you start to zone in or you start to focus in? Is that the training?
It's muscle memory.
Yeah.
You do it so much, it's like autopilot.
Because I mean, I feel like normally people when situations start to escalate, just everybody starts to escalate. You escalate, I escalate, you escalate, I escalate until it
Yeah, that's
finally the situation explodes in some way,
right.
right?
Which is
But if you're
your
trained to go the other way, because if you continue to escalate, right, your brain shuts off. That the part of your brain that would be able to problem solve shuts off, right? And you know now you're just going at it,
mhm,
right? And you're trained to not do that so you can assess the situation, move through the situation in a way that's going to get you out of the situation or handle it, whatever it may be,
mhm.
right? So you go in, you get trained, you where did you go, right? Because you said you end up being a Black Hawk crew chief.
Mhm.
How did that from going in to becoming that? What was that journey?
So you go through your basic training.
Uh-huh.
It's like 14, 14, 15 weeks.
Yep.
And then they give you orders of where you're gonna go. So
Okay.
your first duty station. So I received my orders and I was hoping I was gonna get something like cool, like Hawaii or Germany or something, something legit like that. I looked at my orders and it said I was going to Fort Campbell, Kentucky. Now, mind you, I'm a city boy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, Kentucky, 101st? And I didn't know anything about the 101st, right? I saw 101st Air Assault, Fort Campbell, Kentucky. I was like, damn, son. Yeah, I remember showing my orders to one of my buddies, and he's like, bro, you got 101st Airborne or Air Assault? He's like, that's premium. He's like, he's like, that's great, this and that. Like, I was the only one in my unit that was gonna go to. So I was like, okay, well, here we go. And so that's where I went. My first duty station was in Fort Campbell, Kentucky, the 101st. So in the Army, you have the big three. You have 10th Mountain, which is upstate New York by Canada,
Okay.
and 82nd Airborne, North Carolina, and you have 101st, or the 101 in Fort Campbell, Kentucky.
Okay.
They call it the Big Three because usually these are the first units they ever call when things go down.
Shit hits the fan, they're calling you
Yeah,
out.
shit's a fan. Usually going to be one of those three. So they call
Okay.
them the big three, and they're one of the biggest divisions in the army. So I got to be a part of that, and I ended up loving it.
So why did you get picked? No one else. Out of
Needs
your
of the
unit.
army? I don't
It
know.
just is what it is.
Flip of a coin? I have no idea.
Yeah.
I can't tell you. That was above my pay grade at that time.
So at
That's
that
needs of the
point
army.
you
They're
go
like,
from okay, you got with these guys, you training with these guys or whatever, now it's just you and now you're in a completely
yeah,
new place, you don't know nobody.
I don't know anybody.
Jump in, here we go.
Yeah, I was the only one. Yeah, I didn't know anybody out there.
So you go in and how long are you there before you because you got deployed,
Hmm.
right? So how long were you there before you got deployed and what was that situation?
So I was there 2.5 years
And now
before I was deployed to Afghanistan.
are you prepping for going to Afghanistan the majority of
Yes,
this
yeah,
time? Like, what's the because you went from okay,
right,
the basic training, now they're preparing you for something else.
right.
So, what is the difference in this training? What is this like?
Okay, so just to I guess preface this, in Campbell, Fort Campbell, I was in a CAB, which is a combat aviation brigade, right?
Okay,
Black Hawks, some Apaches. Uh, so that's where I was with that group. And yeah, so you train all year. You train. Basically, if you want to call it a roadmap, it's you start from small and you build up, build up, build up, build up to a big field exercise or FTX to deploying. It's year
okay.
round. Yeah,
So you're just constantly training.
you're constantly training.
And what kind of situations are you getting ready for? Like, what are they? How is it? What is the training
You're training different scenarios from air assault to medevac to uh, ground to learning the enemy's terrain, culture, the type of enemy, what kind of weapons they use, what kind of tactics they use, so on and so forth. So they make it as real as possible.
like? Okay.
Yeah.
And so, how did you feel like that prepared you when you got over there? Like, what was the difference between okay, we're over here, we're preparing for this, but
Yeah.
now I'm actually here in Afghanistan, and it's just getting real.
Yeah. I think even though you train, even when you go out there, you're gonna be scared.
Yeah,
And I don't care. I don't care anybody says. Look how tough you think you are. You're gonna be scared. Your first time downrange, deployed, like, yeah, you're gonna be scared. 'Cause you don't know what to expect. And you have people out there that want to kill you. So,
absolutely.
right.
Right,
Yeah.
right. This is for real. It's just you on the other
Yeah.
side,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
Right? They're trained. They're looking at you the same
Yeah. They
way.
want to kill Americans. And you're
Yeah, they're
there.
looking at
Yeah.
you the exact same way. You're a target at this point.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's like a big difference from being in training where you're not an active
Right. This is
target.
this is for real.
There you are an active target.
This is
Right.
for real. It's not, blanks. It's not, sim rounds. No, this stuff will kill you. So, yeah.
Yeah. So you get out there and what is life like for you now? How is this changing you?
So, okay, so to put it in perspective, you're
Yeah.
going from the United States across the entire globe to a country that doesn't want you there, and you're not in the comforts of your home. So all those comforts, like, yeah, you can say goodbye to that. It's like
Like
a, it's
what?
like a, it's like an alien world. It's all desert. It's a different culture. People speak a different language. People think differently. So um, weather is different. There's a lot of things. So just getting there was kind of like it's a mission in its own. Talking about it's 20 hours flying. You get there and it's boots on the ground and it's getting where you need to go as quick as possible, setting up and relieving the party that was there before you. So it's a pretty big operation.
So how long were you there?
Just over a year for that deployment. I was um I was in Kandahar for that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was that like for you? Like as far as your perception before you went over there to now you're over there, now you're in it. The whole thing's real. You're there for a year, so you're there long enough to definitely take in what is going on, right? And that has to change your perception on many, many things, like however you thought it was going to be to how it now is, right, for you, because this is now your life for at least a year,
Right.
right? And
As
what
far as
changes?
far as the terrain, the really interesting thing is that a lot of places in the United States that we would train will be areas to be as close as to the terrain that we were going to. So it's funny because a lot of places that I would be in Afghanistan look like places in the United States,
Mhm.
like desert mountains, arid places. You have
Yeah,
those biomes here. Um, so it looked familiar, but it was still new. Um, same, but different.
yeah,
That makes sense.
yeah. No,
Yeah.
it does.
So my perspective on the geography, or as far as
No,
people,
I would say
or
people, and maybe interactions. How you train to interact
I
with
didn't,
people,
I
or
don't.
just any of that.
Maybe this is just how I am, but I don't try to have like preconceived notions about anything. I go into anything like I'm not judging. I don't know. I'm going in there blank slate. Like
Now, is that something that they trained you to do, or is that is just kind of like your
I don't-
mentality?
that's my mentality. Some people have like their own feelings, their own perceptions about certain groups or people.
Or maybe prejudice is about the
It
thing,
could be,
but as long as like I
but
mean, but still, you go over to a place and you have to have some assumption. You have to think like what this is going to be like, and then you get there and it is got to be different and to some degree, right? And does that change how you think about things, how you think about maybe life, how you appreciate things or don't? You know, what is the effect that you would say that you come back?
so well, um I could say that before I got there, I thought everybody wants to kill you, but that's not really the case. Yeah, there are people like that, but a lot of them, they're just families, farmers, herders.
So it's like here that if they're not military, they're not military. They're just the people trying to live.
So there isn't okay. So okay, Afghanistan is one of the only countries left on Earth that still have tribes, and they live by tribal laws.
Okay.
So they don't have an army. Historically, Afghanistan, if anybody invaded Afghanistan, let's go back to Alexander the Great, all these tribes would unite together to fight the invader. And Afghanistan has never been conquered. Russians couldn't do it. Alexander the Great couldn't do it. We couldn't do it. So, yeah, that's,
Okay.
yeah.
So you come back, you get out, right? You serve your 8 years. How in the military, as you're exiting, I know they have things like taps and whatnot. Like, how were
Oh,
you?
taps.
What prepared? And you laugh, right? So,
Taps.
so that's interesting. Like, how prepared do you feel like you are to enter into civilian life after you have been in military
Well, let me not laugh at it because if, if we go back to Vietnam,
life?
like those guys were literally given a little pamphlet. They were like, "Here, thank you for your service," and a handshake, and they sent them home.
Roll on. Good
Yeah.
luck.
I mean, now there's a more comprehensive program to help, soldiers transition into civilian life.
Mhm.
Um, but it's a couple of weeks. It's kind of like,
And do you feel like people are
you
really
know,
taking that serious? Because they still, they're like, okay, they've been programmed now. I am a soldier, right? But then you get out and like you are no longer a soldier.
I think it comes to, yeah, it's like you do it for so long, it just becomes a part of you. So it's like when you get out, it's just who you are, and I can tell you when things just switch like that, it's progressive. And then when you get out, you're still a soldier.
Still a soldier.
Yeah. That doesn't stop.
That doesn't ever
It
stop,
doesn't stop. No.
right? But so what is the most difficult transition that you have found after getting out
I
that
think
you've had to deal with?
I think one of my most difficult, there's a few, but one of them is definitely uh like crowds, um the unorganized lines that you might find like at a, like I said, a gas station or
You
stuff
you
like
were
that.
saying that
Yeah.
at a gas station, they're not in
Little
line
things
like they're
like that.
supposed
It's
to.
just, yeah, there is no,
This is just an
that structure is
irritation.
completely gone.
Yeah, that all the structure's gone.
Right. It's gone. So now you're back to being an individual, and it's how, like, how do I do that?
Yeah, and we had talked about this a little bit because, like in crowds, you say you can assess people in a second. You know where all the exits are. You know who's carrying
Mhm,
what. You
mhm.
know who's the most potential threat in there. And like we had said, I mean, I think in society, if you're a civilian, that's really saw as a superpower, right? Like James Bond has that power. You know, he can go in, he can figure out who's who and what, and all this other kind of stuff. And everybody wishes that they were that cool and had that power. But for you, you have it, and it's maybe an irritation that's always on your mind, right? So what is that like for you? Because civilians like, man, I wish I could do that. I wish I could see that. But for you, it can put you on edge or just make it to where you can't relax.
Yeah,
How have you had to deal with that? And what are you doing to be able to make adjustments?
it takes work. It takes work, and sometimes you don't want to do that work because it's just better to isolate yourself. And this is where that can be dangerous.
The
Yeah,
isolation,
the
very
isolation.
dangerous.
Yeah, because that's when then you start letting your thoughts just kind of just run wild. You know, it can be unhealthy, but you don't know what else to do. Either your buddies are still in the service, or some of them have passed away. Like, you're just dealing with so much.
Mhm.
Um, I guess sometimes you just want to just put it out, out of mind. And isolation comes with that too.
So what do you
Uh,
feel has helped you the most being able to work around that? What's your workarounds?
so there's definitely not a workaround.
Okay.
Definitely not a workaround. I wish there was. These are issues that you have to confront them. Even if you're comfortable, you have to just be in that moment, because we start to train our minds to deal with certain situations a certain way, and we actually reward ourselves not even knowing. So I'll give an example.
Sure.
If I went to a club, right, and there's a crowd, obviously people are dancing, and then I feel that anxiety. I can't handle it. I just get sensory overload. I get anxiety. I might start getting a panic attack. I want to leave. So I do. I leave. And what happens? I start feeling better.
Yeah.
Right. So now I'm rewarding my body, myself, my mind, telling me when you leave the situation, it feels better. So what am I going to do? Every
Every
time I'm in
time
that situation,
you're gonna leave.
I'm just going to leave. Right. Instead of leaving, stay. As crazy as that sounds, you have to just stay and let it do its thing. And, but it's taken for me help of family. friends, uh, veterans, even some friends that are still in the service. Um, some people in the VA, the VA. But yeah, it's been I couldn't do it by myself.
Now you said dance has helped you with this.
Oh, definitely. Dance,
So
the
how
salsa
is
school.
yeah? So how has social dancing? You've been learning salsa bachata,
Yes.
right? Going to the classes, going to the socials,
Yep.
right? How has that impacted your life just overall?
So it's definitely helped me out with some of these social anxieties that I get. Now I am diagnosed, I do have PTSD, which is something that can come and go. Some days are better than others, you know.
And what is that
Um,
like for you? Like, how does that present itself physically for
well, it
you?
can manifest itself physically through, anxiety, right? And it manifests itself through, I guess, physical symptoms. You can get like clammy hands, cold sweat, you get flushed, stomach pains, headaches, racing heart.
And is there
Um,
triggers to this? I would
yeah,
assume.
there's triggers and there's also unknown triggers. Sometimes you can get an anxiety attack, you don't even know why. It's like your subconscious also plays into this, you know.
Okay.
I wish it was, clear cut. Sometimes it's not, you know. So salsa definitely has helped me a lot because prior to taking these salsa classes and going to the school, you wouldn't catch me in these places. I couldn't
In a
mentally or
club or
physically to
around
like
around
be
crowds, you
there. I
couldn't do
couldn't
it.
be around it. I just couldn't. Um, Loud noises. If you go to loud noises, you're in a place, they're playing, you're in a social, they're playing music, it's loud, or man, 4th of July, I couldn't leave the house. At my best friend's birthday is 4th of July. I would miss his birthday because I couldn't leave.
All the
I would get dressed,
explosions.
and I would get dressed, shower, looking good. Let's go out, celebrate my buddy's birthday. I cannot leave that front door, you know? And it hurts, man. And how do I explain my best friend that I miss his birthday, you know?
What's happening to you at that moment? Like you go, like you just start hearing it starting to pop off, and you're like, nope,
Yeah.
not doing this.
Yeah, it's like that it's fight or flight. That's what it is. And I had to learn that fight or flight. So your body is struggling with this, your mind is just fight or flight. What
So
happens?
I think with the like I would think unless somebody has been through this same situation, like they're military like yourself, and they've been through the same situation, right? Someone, a civilian like myself, would be like, okay, so I'm trying to make sense of that because I understand you say, okay, well, this is bringing back memories or something, but you're trained to be able to do the situation. You're the person trained to run into the situation when that's happening, not to back down from the situation when that's happening. So, what is it that's keeping you? It would just seem almost logically that you would be the person that could overcome that the easiest, not someone else. So, how does that work? That you're hearing maybe the explosions and everything is it's reminding you of right, a situation you've been in or whatever. But in that situation, you were handling the situation, and
Mhm.
now in this situation, it's affecting you in this way where you're shying away from it. Why is that? Why would you not be able to leave the house
Oh,
if
right.
you're trained to run into everything exploding and still handle the situation? How would you? How is that affecting you in that way?
That's a great question. It's trauma based. Um, it's something, and again, and I'm not a psychologist.
Sure, sure.
This is a lot of things that I've learned through the years and speaking to professionals. But that's a great question. Why would I just go out if I, it's again, it's you're alone. You know, you're alone. I feel almost as like if you don't have your buddies with you, you know, like your left and your right,
Got you.
you know what I mean?
That
Now you're
makes
just
more
alone.
sense now.
You're alone. You're isolated, and you just don't know what to make of it.
You have no intel on it. You have no information on what's really going on. Even though you know what's going on, there is still it's triggering
Yeah,
you.
it's almost like it's again it's like it's an anxiety, a panic attack. It really does consume you at that moment. You know, you can't make clear decisions when you're in that state. Your thoughts could race. You're not clear headed.
Yeah,
So, you know, how could you possibly make any decisions, you know, mindful decisions when, you know, you're anything but mindful at that moment?
sure.
Yeah.
So tell me, going back to your training and the preparation, how has the training and the preparation that you experienced in the military positively affected and impacted your life as a civilian?
So definitely there is positive. So that's good. Let's look at the positives, right? Because there is a lot. There is definitely a discipline, um, a sense of, let's say pride, but accomplishment, um, that you take with you. Teamwork is really really big as well. I think somebody who really took some of these core values that I mentioned earlier
Mhm.
and really like lived by those and learned these are really things that they carry on as well. Um, so you know, selfless service, courage, integrity, leadership, which is big too. You know, because you do take leadership courses, you become a leader where you have other people that you know you are responsible for.
Yeah,
You know, and not just working, personal too.
sure.
Like their issues become your issues,
Mhm.
and you got to help them out. You know, if you got a soldier that's not in the right mind, you know, and for one, you know, he's a human too, and he's your what they call battle buddy. You want to say that, but it's you know you want to look after him too. You know,
Yeah.
and make sure he's good. You know, and if he's good, the rest of us are good. You know, so that's really important.
So a lot of
Yeah.
it, it sounds like a lot of it comes down to, be a good person. You know, don't be a shitty person. I think it's very easy to be I, right?
Yeah.
Think about myself, think about what I want, how I'm going to get what I want. And you're trained to think as a team. You're trained to think about the other people, and not only to think about them, but to be able to assess the situation and figure out how can we accomplish a goal or
Hmm.
whatever it is together, moving
Right.
as a
Yeah.
unit.
Everybody has their place, and you know, but we put it all together. You know, so
And I
yeah.
think probably you're pretty well trained in being able to assess somebody's strengths and weaknesses and place them into a situation where you can capitalize on their strengths and minimize, you know, the weakness
Right.
issue to be able to make the whole unit move forward.
For sure. Um, you know, as a leader in the service, at the time I was a non-commissioned officer. So obviously, yeah. So like my guys and girls have strengths and weaknesses. All right, your
Yeah,
strengths. Okay, cool. That's great. It's nice. Well, let's work on your weaknesses. I'd rather work on your weakness than you're okay. You're good. You're strong. Well, let's look at your weaknesses. You know, and we'll do that together.
yeah,
You know, I mean, that's the type of leadership that I style that I like is you know to be this way with your people. Um, but unfortunately, hey, you know, there's some toxic leadership in the service, just like there is in the civilian
yeah.
world.
All that's going to
I
be
mean,
anywhere.
that's across the
You got
board,
good and bad
man.
everywhere, right?
Yeah,
Of
it's
course.
unfortunately it sucks. I think it's probably gotten worse, maybe, but um, not definitely not the style that was, you know.
And
So
so the reason I ask is because as people are watching this and um, anybody who's running a business, especially a company or a large business that has employees, I see a huge value in having someone who's military because they're already trained to work as a team. They're already trained to be able to, it's not like know your place, but do know what your strengths are and your weak,
Hmm.
like being able to be realistic about where you're at, and what you can do, and allowing the team to capitalize on that as a whole, on each
Hmm.
person's to be able to move the machine forward. Because at the end of the day, that's the value that you're bringing to the table. I think is like what can you actually do, and to not be overshooting what you can do because you can't, right? And to just realize that it's like I'm really not that good at this, and just accept it.
Yeah.
Like I'll work on it. I have no problem working on it. But the main thing is to admit it and to not say, yeah, I can do these five things and you're very good at those
Oh
five things,
yeah.
but these other three things you're not very good at. And we say,
Right.
well, we need these done too. And you're like, oh, yeah, yeah, I can do that. Right.
Yeah.
In the military, you train like, right. You're going to get us all shot. Right. Right. No, you can't do that. You can't do that. Right.
Uh,
We'll work on that later, but let's just be realistic. Right. So that
right.
we can all survive this situation. Right. I think that's um, I would say a huge benefit to hiring someone that's military.
Mm.
I mean, would you agree with that?
Higher vets.
Our vets, it's important, right?
They need you. You need them.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah, yeah. I said this to you, and I would say this to anybody. Is like being very aware that the only reason that we have the life that we have here. You went there, so that didn't come here. I mean, that's just reality, right? We can walk outside, not so much worry about, as long as you live in a decent area, not
Mhm.
so much worry about getting shot at or grenades blowing up and all this. You can go to the store and you're not stressing. You don't even think about
Mhm.
it. You have these comforts of life that you never really taken into consideration because you've never known anything different.
Mhm.
However, you go somewhere else where it's a war zone, it's a completely different situation, and you've been in that place,
Mhm.
right? And you've stopped that from coming here, right? As a whole, as a unit, right? And I think it's very important for all the civilians to be very appreciative and be realistic about that. I mean, there's so many things you want to cover. I mean, we've been talking for a while. It's like I think we could just sit here and talk about all that stuff
Oh
because it's so
man,
interesting to
there's
me.
so
It's like
much, bro. Like if
it's
you
a
can,
lot, and we
yeah,
just need to
yeah,
do another pot. We just need to do another session to talk about that stuff because, like we were talking about earlier before we got on here, being able to communicate with people a lot is just understanding how that person thinks, what they're thinking about, and how they're processing information, right? And the more that we all understand each other, the better we're going to communicate because even if you can articulate yourself well, if you're assessing the situation improperly,
yeah. Mhm.
that your communicate it doesn't matter how articulate you are. Your communication is not going to land the way you want it to because you totally misread the situation. So if we can start having more conversations and start understanding each other better, it's going to make for a whole lot smoother communications with each other. And me as being a teacher, I've been teaching like 27, 28 years. I teach civilians, I teach military, I teach everybody. And the better I understand the students that I'm teaching, where they're from, maybe the struggles that they're having, right? PTSD triggers, things like that, because we deal with music, we deal with outside, we deal with crowds, we deal with all kinds of stuff, right? And being able to understand what's going on with somebody helps me be able to communicate and teach them and get them to the place that they want to go ultimately, which is, I mean, every student pays me for a service to help them learn a skill, build confidence, and be able to have a good time with that, right? And the better I understand them, the more accurately I'm going to be able to hit that mark. And I think, especially for all the teachers that would be listening, or anybody that's dealing with people in that capacity,
Yeah,
you need to understand the people
yeah,
that you're dealing with. You have to understand your student or your people that you're working with. Yeah.
yeah, definitely. Isolation and isolation is a big, big issue, especially with veterans. Suicide, rates are just they're very high, and it's something that needs to be addressed and something that needs to be looked at. There are a lot of veterans who are suffering needlessly. I usually contact some of the guys I used to serve with, and it seems, like because we share this common experience and bond, we're like our own therapists per se.
Okay. Yeah.
But there is help out there. There are resources, um, and it's a journey. It takes time, but you can get there. I'm so thankful for the salsa class. I mean, you were my first instructor.
Absolutely.
I'm so grateful. I appreciate it
Thank
so
you.
much because you've helped me incredibly. And you never knew that.
Well, I appreciate it. I
you know,
appreciate that. Well, it's
but
something, I told you, we have the very long name, Sandy Finchy Solomon Ageless World of Dance for youth veterans and first responders. Like, but it's that's a nonprofit basically trying to incorporate everybody for several reasons, right? First off, we want to help people with like PTSD, depression, suicide prevention by teaching them a skill set, a social skill set
mhm,
that they can then use to assist when they're having, you know, issues and problems and things like what you described on here, you know, not being comfortable in social situations or crowds and whatnot like that. So we try to use the funds that we get to put people into classes and then have the events so that you can come all the time. And
mhm.
down here in South Florida, obviously salsa and bachata is the way to go because I mean you can dance every single night
Oh yeah.
in South Florida. You can find somewhere to salsa and bachata, probably several places, right, every single night. So it's great, because you never know when if you're thinking about if you're having depression issues or you're thinking about suicide. I'm sure it's not once a month. When there's a
Mhm,
hike or when there's an event or something like that
mhm.
that a group's putting on, which is great that they're doing that. But it's things are needed on a daily basis, and that's what we're trying to provide is something that is on a daily basis. And
Ah,
love that you come, and all the
I
veterans
love it.
and the first
Yeah.
responders that come. It's great. I mean, plus a lot less chance you're gonna have problems in a club if it's full of veterans and first responders. I feel right. Everybody just want to have a good time.
Hey, we
Everybody
know how
just
to
want to have a good
party.
time. You know how to party, and makes everybody feel a lot more safe. Plus appreciative.
Yeah.
We appreciate y'all. Y'all appreciate the fact I think that we trying to do something to show that we do actually appreciate the service
Yeah.
you provided, and so it's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, through you, inadvertently, well, or directly, you connected me with other veterans,
Yep.
which I didn't
Other
have that.
organizations, yeah,
I didn't have that at all. I was
yeah, Barracks
so that
Legend
helped
and
me
the
so
Reverend
much, and I think
Warriors,
that
all
is
them,
very
yeah.
key. To really like get with, and some places don't have this. It's such a blessing to have a community where veterans can, meet up and do things together, help each other out. Because it's at the end of the day, without that, like you know,
Gives you your network back, gives you your group, your team back.
gives you your team back. It does. It does really help for
That's
sure.
awesome. Well,
Yeah.
man, look, I
So,
really
oh
appreciate you
yeah.
being on
So
the
I'm
show.
very grateful, and um,
Yeah,
you know, and I can just pray that anybody can really have this opportunity, because they need it.
100%.
Oh yeah.
Man, thank you for being on the show. Thank you for coming to classes and
Oh, thanks for
sharing
having
with
me,
us
man.
here.
I
We're gonna do
appreciate
this
it.
again.
Of
Do this again. Thank you so
course.
much. And so let's go dance.
Salud.
Make it happen.
All right.